This is Still a Part of Us, a podcast where moms and dads share the story of their child who was stillborn or who died in infancy. I'm Lee Red, and this episode of Advice and Encouragement from a Lost Dad, I chat with Scott, whose daughter was diagnosed with necrotizing enterocolitis, or NEC, and who passed away 55 days after birth. By the way, you can hear both Scott's and his wife Jan's episodes about the birth of their daughter on episode 2.1 and 2.3. Today I discuss with Scott a couple of things that helped him in his mourning process. One of those things was opening up to close friends and family, even though he did not want to. As a word of caution to our listeners, this discussion contains emotional triggers of stillbirth and infant loss. Please keep yourself emotionally and mentally healthy and seek help if needed. Hope this helps somebody out there.
Hey guys, we felt like this podcast has been something we've needed to do since our son Brandon passed away. It takes time and money to produce the show, and we hope we can do it long term because we know it'll help others.
If you feel this show has been beneficial to you or somebody you love, please consider becoming a patron of the show for a few dollars a month. You do get the warm fuzzies of helping us and supporting the show, and there are some other pretty cool bonuses, including our daughter telling stories. Go to our website, stillapartofus.com, to get more details. Thanks.
This last year has been taxing on each of us and on our relationship as a couple, and we realized a few months after our son passed away that if we didn't tend to it, we would get carried away in our grief and drift apart. So we actually made a commitment to each other that we wouldn't neglect our relationship, and we attended a Utah date night and had a night out where we laughed, we had some entertainment, but we also learned from the best relationship experts out there.
And we're excited that the Gottmans, Dr. John and Julie Gottman, the love experts, are speaking at the upcoming Utah date night.
It's so exciting.
Join us, because we're going to be there.
Yeah, we are.
Wednesday, September 18th in the evening from 6:30 to 9:30 at Cottonwood High School in Utah. It's a special night, and you're going to be hearing from a couple people. First, I think from Dr. Laura Heck, who's a certified Gottman therapist.
I really like her. I listen to a podcast that she does, so I'm excited for her too.
And also Dr. and Dr. Gottman. Dr. and Dr. Gottman.
The Gottmans will be there.
If you're dating, if you're engaged, if you're newlywed, or if you've been married for a long time, like Winter and I, you can learn something from the Gottmans. They make relationships better and stronger, especially if you're experiencing a major loss, like many of our listeners have.
So go to stillapartofus.com/Utah date night for the link to sign up. If you use our link, this helps support the podcast and all we're trying to do to help others. Tickets are $75 a couple or $44 for a single ticket. And as a bonus from the Gottmans, they are actually giving each couple a copy of their newest book, 8 Dates. Once again, go to stillapartofus.com/Utah date night. And we hope to see you there.
See you there.
All right. Well, I think for me, the things that were helpful, were to just kind of confront a lot of the things. And I think for me, the first thing that happened right off the bat was going home right afterwards. We went to the hospital and we had a car seat with, our baby in it. And now we were leaving. And so I remember holding the car seat, but, we weren't leaving with her. And I remember that was pretty rough, obviously. And then, so the very first decision that came to us was, well, we're headed home, but home was going to be extremely difficult to go to. So I remember thinking, I don't want to go home. So maybe what we should do is go to a hotel, at least for a little bit. Let's just get away for, even if it's a short amount of time, just a day or two or something. Grieve a little bit or whatever we need to do. But I had a strong aversion to returning back home. I just didn't want to go back. But we kind of decided, well, we have to go back at some point, and we might as well just go back. So we did. We went back home, and that was hard. That was horrific. But I'm glad that we did that, because now we were at home and, couldn't do what I naturally wanted to do, which was just kind of avoid that. So that was one thing that was immediate. And the other thing was that I didn't it's not that I didn't want to talk about much of it, but I didn't really have a desire to just kind of, I don't know, talk to my friends or anything about it soon. I just kind of wanted to, my natural inclination was just to keep it to myself. But I remember returning back to work, and I have some good friends, some coworkers who are some good friends. And so I kind of fought that one again. I'm just like, well, I'll talk to them and just kind of tell them what's going on and that kind of thing. And so we talked, and I remember not really wanting to, but I did anyway. And I think that helped as well. And it's not that I wasn't ever going to talk or anything, but I just didn't want to then. But I think just kind of, for me, a lot of those kind of decisions helped because I was able to talk about it, and talking about it helped. But I didn't want to. Obviously, I didn't want to go home, but we did. And I think that was really good as well. So talking was really good. And then I think the other thing I remember was, it seems like every now and again, even my friends or people would say things that I would take to just kind of be callous or, I don't know, careless maybe. And thinking kind of like, why would you say that? I don't know. Just that's what I felt like at first. But instead I didn't, and just kind of thought, well, they're good intentioned, and they don't know if they should be dancing on eggshells or what they should say or anything. And so for my close friends at work, I think they just kind of tried to get back to as normal as they could there with me, working with them. And ultimately that did kind of help me, because it helped me kind of get back into a normal rhythm, even with that stuff there. So I think, obviously there's kind of, I think it's kind of a two-way street when it comes to communicating with others after this. From my perspective, it's very painful when you're dealing with a lot of emotions. So, you could be having a really rough time, or even just a bad day, that kind of thing. And then I noticed that, I would get very critical, hypercritical kind of things people say and that kind of thing, which is understandable because, the pain is just, it's intense. And also on the other side of that road, going the other way, are my friends and people who, they haven't experienced that, so they don't know. And I think they're kind of thinking, I don't know, that it's awkward, I guess, that they don't know what to say. They want to help, but obviously there really isn't much that I heard from any friends or a lot of people that helped the pain, but they try. And so I think that it was good for me just to kind of, I think just allow that kind of grace to them, just to be like, it's not like I really know how to deal with a lot of these emotions as well. But they don't really know how to act either. So I know that their intentions are to help me and to be supportive. And so that's kind of what I took from them. So a lot of times if something was said that I kind of thought, well, why would you say that? That's, I don't know. A lot of it wasn't overtly horrible, but, from my perspective, it just kind of was either offensive or something. But I thought, well, again, this is just me. They call it taking offense, not giving offense. So is to just kind of find a way to think like, well, from their perspective, they're trying to help, they're not trying to make things worse. So I think those two things helped a lot for me. So just kind of seeing in myself the way that I wanted to, the things that I wanted to do naturally, not go home and those kind of things. and to instead just kind of step aside and try to be a third person looking in and being like, well, is it going to be that helpful for you not to go home? And then thinking, well, all right, maybe not. You got to go home at some time. Let's go home. Let's do this. And then, talking about it. It's like, I don't want to talk about it. It's painful, and I'd rather not, So I would rather just kind of keep it to myself. And that is kind of how I mourn anyway. But to, friends and family to open up, which was not easy, very difficult, but I think that helped a lot.
Thanks. Do you have any items, or I call them tokens? Do you have any remembrances like that you either keep on yourself or you have in your bedstand or nightstand? Is there anything that you're like, hey, I kept this little footy pajamas that I have folded up and tucked away that has been very helpful to you?
We do have a number of things, but I wouldn't say that any of them have been helpful to me in, I guess, getting through a lot of it. I'm glad that we have those things, but I'm not really sure that I would consider them as like personal totems or anything. We did get a pair of rings made, and inside the ring they were able to engrave or make them with her fingerprint. And I wear it. But if I forget it or something, it's fine. I don't know. It's not really very important to me. I wear it because I think that it's nice. But that's kind of the extent of it. I mean, I don't really associate a lot of those things with her personally. I kind of associate more of the things we have, like we have a number of things like her handprints or molds, feet type of things. I think some articles of clothing, that kind of thing. And to me personally, I don't really find them that important. I think that they're nice. I like having them. They remind me of that time, and just some random, I guess, stories and things that were going on around then. But I don't necessarily associate them with her. I think that she is fine and well and, doing her thing. So, yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to say in this advice section?
I think the last thing that I have that's worth mentioning, that's very helpful, was my wife and I, we made a point to try to communicate, the best that we could, and also to allow each other to grieve in the way that, whatever it happened to be, the way that we each grieve. And it was helpful because, we realized that we weren't the same in that. And I was, I'd prefer to be maybe more to myself and not so talkative about those type of things. And, she was grieving in her way. And I think part of that also included, gathering with friends and talking more and those type of things. And, there were things that she wanted to do or things that she wanted to keep and that kind of things. And, that's perfectly fine with me. And it's like, yeah, go ahead. That's great. And, if I was doing things differently and grieving in a different way, she wasn't upset that, I wasn't, I guess, going about it in the same way that she was. And so we kind of allowed each other to, handle things individually that we needed to. And then together we, just tried to keep our communication open and try to use the experience as a way to help us grow together and, not allow it to break us apart.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
A huge thanks to Scott for coming on the podcast and sharing his advice and encouragement with us, and for also shedding some light on how grief and mourning has looked for him. This is one thing that I struggle with myself, on how to open up to those around me about my own feelings as well. I'm grateful for him. I'm grateful that he came and talked with me. And I hope this can help some other lost parents, and for those who are supporting lost parents in their lives. Head over to our website, stillapartofus.com, where you could find the show notes including the full transcription of this interview and any resources that were mentioned, where you could sign up for a short email newsletter, where you could also find out how to become a patron and support the work it takes to produce this show for a few dollars a month, where you could find out how to get in touch with us if you want to share your child's story on the show. The show was produced and edited by Winter and Lee Red. Thanks to Josh Woodward for letting us use his song Vanishing Note. You can find him at joshwoodward.com. Lastly, subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend who might need it, and tell them to subscribe too. Why? Because people need to know that even though our babies are no longer with us, they are still a part of us.